When it's race day, the runners show up, move into the corral, take off, and we do the best we can to complete the run, maybe earning some hardware. But who puts it all together and ensures we have a great experience? That would be Ted Metellus, the New York Roadrunners Chief Event Production Officer and Race Director for the TCS New York City Marathon. In this role, Ted oversees event management, logistics, and he gets to do this for all of the New York Roadrunner races.
Timers, are we ready? Start teams, are we ready? Lead vehicles, are we ready? Athletes, are we ready? Let's make some noise here, y'all. Let's get excited. Athletes, on the board.
So I sat down with Ted and we talked about how he got into running, some of his favorite races, being at the Roadrunners, the health and wellness of black men, and he also shared some tips for new runners on how to get into it. So check it out. Ted, thank you. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for this. I know we've been working this out scheduling-wise for quite some time to get together and meet in person. I didn't know what to expect until now that it's like for real on camera and everything. So I appreciate the time to sit down and talk to you and your audience.
Yeah, for sure. Like, as a runner, we hear your voice. I'm all the way in the back, so we hear your voice before the races, and then obviously, we catch each other, at the end of the race.
Oh yeah.
But kind of want you to give the people like your origin story, like where you came from, like who is Ted Metellus, like.
So who is Ted Metellus? Ted Metellus is the youngest of four, whose parents are from Haiti. They immigrated here to the States from Haiti. A Bronx native, born and raised. Went to college upstate New York, 45 minutes north of Syracuse, way upstate. Yeah. Native New Yorker, true and true, who loves music and travel and sports, arts and culture and community, just like any other brother. So that's my short version there. I've traveled around a lot, both on a professional path and a personal path. Having been, lived in Miami for a bit. I was the race director for the Miami Marathon during an interim period when I was transitioning from new ownership. I lived in Philly for a bunch of years. I was the assistant race director for the Philadelphia Triathlon. So I've done some running and some triathlons. So endurance space has always been something in my portfolio. And I've, literally traveled, dare I even say the world. I've been to Asia producing events, I've been to Africa producing events, most recently just coming back from South Africa. So I've been very fortunate where my career has led me to be able to see, do, and inspire in different ways, and also to be inspired. Single best thing about what I do is the people I get to do it with. So blessed in that sense.
That's amazing. Well, how'd you get into running?
So I ran in high school for a bit. I went to an small all boys high school in the Bronx.
What'd you run?
I ran the 100 until a growth spurt. And then all the little dudes were flying past me, and my coach was like, how about we get you to do the 200? I ran cross country, so I ran out in Van Cortlandt for a bit, a bunch of the track races and events. I did that for a couple of years. I would never call myself a runner by any means, at least back then. It was the communal bond of all of us running and being active as part of being a team. Didn't make it to the basketball team, definitely not as tall as you are. So, but running was a great engagement, especially for young kids that are getting themselves in a new school and trying to find a space and trying to find a community. Community is gonna be a word we're gonna say a lot over this chat. That running came into play in high school. And then after a couple of years of high school, I didn't run anymore. I was active in school in like student government and programming and activities. That transitioned over into college. Was very involved in college events, worked for like the student activity board, where I brought concerts and shows into school, so that was dope, and it lined back up to what my professional career is now. Was a member of multiple organizations, the Black Student Union, Caribbean Student Union, Latin Student Union, was all involved in that. Always stayed active. There was value in that. I think where, as peers, being active was always a good thing. Running around the block, playing stickball, salute sheet, tag, whatever those games were that we played as kids, which those are like some of the best memories I had as a young person, where we did not have like structured, organized sports. But when all the kids came down and somebody had a wiffle ball, we were playing wiffle ball.
Right.
Like somebody's playing basketball, we're all going to the park to play basketball. Or what we really did in the hood was we got a milk crate, we cut the milk crate open, hung it up on something, and that's where we hooped until the thing broke. So always stayed active and always stayed engaged, but running came into play when I came to New York Roadrunners on my first stint here. So I worked at Roadrunners 01, 02, 03 full time. Then I was a consultant for a number of years. I ran the 08 marathon, ran the 13 marathon, and came back to the organization at 18. When I was working at the organization back at the old office on 1989th Street, we affectionately called it the club, because New York Roadrunners was the club, is NYRRC. That's these old school photos here, which kind of tie into it. But producing the events and seeing people out there running the races, and the organization was significantly smaller and our races were significantly smaller. I was still inspired by what I saw in front of me and seeing all the shapes and sizes and all the types of people that are out there running. And I was like, you know what, let me get out and run again. So had a little shower space at the office and whatnot. And then for lunch, I would change, go out and say, I'm gonna run based on time, not on distance. So can I run for 3 minutes straight? Can I run for 5 minutes straight? Can I run for 8 minutes straight? And build and build and build until I was able to do, and it started with just the reservoir. So I would run around the reservoir and try to see until I can do a full loop of the reservoir. And then I did the lower loop of the bridle path. And then I did the northern end of the park, the 102 up loop part. And then I did the southern end of the park. And then I did the midsection of the park until I built myself up to being able to do the whole 6 mile circumference of the park. Ran 1 or 2 of the races here. And then I said, you know what, let me try to really continue to build up and run a half marathon. And my first half marathon was the Philadelphia half in 07. And I had all the pre-race jitters that you have from way back then, really navigating, what to do and how to do things. Fortunately, I was running with a friend of mine who was a seasoned runner. She's probably got like 20 some odd Boston marathons underneath her belt. Wow. Not as a fast runner. She always runs for cause. She runs for Dana-Farber Foundation, a couple of the other organizations. So she's always linked into that. But we ran together and I was hooked. 07 was my first half marathon, and I'm 44 half marathons in. Wow. So I've done two New Yorks, 2 marathons in New York, and then 44 halves. And I love it. Half marathon is the best. We're not chopping it up. It's Staten Island half. The half marathon is a solid barometer and base of fitness for those that stay fit and active. If I needed to get out and run 13 miles right now, I can do it. It may not be pretty, it definitely ain't gonna be fast, but it will get completed. So that's my foray into it. And running ultimately was inspired by the people that were running, that we were producing the events for. And I said, let me take a step into this and, practice what we preach in action and motion. And I've been doing it ever since.
It's funny that when I speak to people, like, I used to run 100, 200, right? That was mine. And I never ran long. They wanted me to run the 400, but I didn't because the 400s, they ran middle distance in training. I was like, no. I'm not running long. But here it is. Here I am running middle distance, running long distance, right? And when I look at my friends who and I ask them, when'd you get started running? They say, I ran in high school. Like, I was a sprinter. It's like, all the sprinters are now
doing long distances.
We're not doing long distance. It's crazy. But I think one thing that really stuck out what you said was like that thought of, I want to run a minute, I want to run 2 minutes, I want to, because, when we try to get into running, people, there's a barrier of like, wow, like this is a lot. This is too much. And, always trying to chop it up into like those little pieces. So I think that really resonated. That might be something even for me, like, still running, still getting to that 13, 14, 15, 20, just hit 20 last week. How to get to 26 consistently, right? Without stopping, just stop for water, obviously.
Correct.
But to get to that point.
Yeah, I think the thing to that point is, and I know we'll chat a little bit about this, but the demystification of it and kind of breaking it down into smaller chunks. Because when you first, people need to be better informed about what the activity and sport of running is and what it entails, so you can go out there. Because the more knowledgeable you are going into any type of activity, the easier it is for you to process it because you've taken the fear component out of it or the unknowns out of it. So there's that piece, but we can chat about that later. Breaking into small pieces and demystifying it and saying like, oh wait, so I could run for 3, I could run for 5, I could run for 7, I could do that. And what's been really fascinating to see, and I saw this most recently at a marathon that I was at this weekend, is the run walk folks that are out there, and they will still finish a marathon and a half marathon in a faster pace than some people that are like, I'm gonna run every single mile,
Right.
you know, because they're like, it's broken down to a science, and it's in a consumable approach of being like, all right, everybody, we're gonna run for 3 minutes, we're gonna walk for a minute, we're gonna run for 3 minutes, we're gonna walk for a minute, and like build, and watching those pace groups move together is amazing because they are all supporting one another as this community to get to the finish line. So I think the more folks know about the bits and pieces of the activity, the more likely they're going to be able to participate in it. And you know, I've even said like, just walk around your block, then jog around your block, then run around your block, and then you build yourself up to being able to do that because you build that base. And building that base in anything is part of being able to, you know, continue to develop that foundation.
Yeah, or even get off the stop before you get home and walk that stop.
Correct.
Right? Or walk that stop to work.
Oh yeah.
Because that it is important, right? Like so, this summer I've been running with No Name, and you know I'm in the 13 group, right? So each pace group they run together. So the 13 plus, a lot of them do the run walk, and I've done that. I did it in Miami. I did it for New York, and it is very helpful because you know sometimes you just don't have all the energy to continue. But if I can take a little break, push back to my pace, get there, I'm good. And then also when we're doing our speed workouts, you know, we'll maybe do like, say our pace is 13, we'll go to like 11, 20, and then we'll rest. And then at the end of the run, the pace for the entire workout is 13. Right. And so, you know, definitely the science there. Speaking of races, like, what are some of your favorite races? Like, I know, like you said, you started Miami. You were in Miami.
Yeah.
I like Miami. I'm going back.
I will see you there. February, we'll go. We'll get together while we're down there for sure. It's hands down one of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are some other ones?
So, outside of New York, and it's tough because I'm a terrible creature of habit, you know, and like for all the places I've been and all the things I've done, and the most important things experiencing life to the fullest, especially living here in New York City where there's so much variety. You know, you get back to your own routine sometimes, and that's something I got to shake myself out, especially on this side of life. But I love Miami. I've run it a ton of times. I've definitely put a lot of sweat equity into that event, having worked on it for so many years and knowing it so well. And it's really nice to be able to go down there and run the race and experience it. I'm still of service to that community. So sometimes the team will like, hey, can you do some media? Or can you like chat with some kids or so on and so forth? Absolutely. It's always giving back, but Miami is great. And who doesn't want to be in South Florida in January, February, you know, coming from where we're from. So that race is always a special one. Philadelphia, the race in November, love that race. I've run that race, I don't know, gosh, maybe a dozen times, maybe plus minus. Running races in Philly is really nice. Philly is oddly challenging as a market to run in. A former colleague of mine said it best, take the P out of Philly and it spells Hilly. So you're gonna get some, but they produce a good enough amount of road races down there throughout the year that depending if it's a spring, summer, or fall, you know, half that you want to do, or the 10-miler, like the Broad Street Run 10-mile race, I've done that one as well. But it's great because for us in the city, it's you hop on the Amtrak, you jump on a bus, you drive down, you're there in no time, and that's an overnight trip for you. Just go there, run, you know, get your bib, run the next day, go home. So I like the convenience of that. It shakes it up. Plus, it's a really strong running community down there in Philly. So hopefully this will help build your Philadelphia viewership. And I will give you one more, and then there's like honorable mention to other races, but another race that I've consistently run every year is the Bank of America Chicago 13-1 half marathon. That race is particularly special because of where it is. It's on the west side of Chicago. There are no road races and events on the west side of Chicago, so this is Garfield Park in that section of town. They started the event off, I think, with maybe about 7,000 or 8,000 runners. They want to keep it small, really, really community. And they invested a lot of time in the market to listen to them and say, how can we be of service to you? How can we engage this, with the goal and mission to really get people moving and see an alternative out there. So when I went out there for the first event, again, being of service, hey, you let me know what I need. I can help you guys set up some stuff, but I'm running the next day. So, I was there, and Carrie Pinkowski, who's the race director of that event, also the race director of the Bank of America Chicago Marathon, was like, hey, listen, we're gonna do a community shakeout run. We're gonna have a couple of elites come over, and we're gonna talk to some of the run crews that are there. And I went over, and I'm just kind of like chilling. It's not my show, it's other folks, let me do their thing. And Carrie's introducing some of these other athletes that are there, Abdi and Diana and all these other athletes that are there that are accomplished runners. And folks are like, wow, this is dope. And then he turns over and goes, and I want to introduce you lastly to my friend, my colleague, Ted Metellus, who's the race director of the TCS New York City Marathon. Bruh, people were shocked because they were like, wait a second, hold on, he looks just like us. And like literally, like you could see the awe on their face. They walked over to me afterwards and we were chatting and we were like, yo, this is crazy. Like we didn't know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah. And they were so happy that I was there. So run the first year of the race, and it was fantastic. We had a great time, great energy. People showed out, but they were so welcoming of it. And what I loved, and I've seen every single year, I've run it 3 years in a row. And every single year, the race has grown. The community has grown within it. The folks that are in the neighborhoods are outside on their porches, cheering people on and whatnot, giving you a smile, and that smile and those waves give you even more energy to keep going. So I love that. And then lastly, which has been really, really interesting, and this is the power of running, and we saw it here in New York back in the 70s, the 60s and 70s, the fact that there's people that are running and engaging in the parks then forces the local municipality and the city to invest back in those parks and make them nice. So where we were before wasn't available to us this year. For 2 years, we were at a particular start and finish. It still runs around these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful parks in that community, which is the other thing too. Like there were people that are Chicago natives that have said, I've never been to the west side of Chicago, and I'm here because of this race. And then they see it and they're like, wow, this is beautiful. With no mission of trying to gentrify the community, but just inform people that, there is other parts of the city that are there. But my point though is they had to move the race to a different start area because the city was now investing in that park and beautifying it and working on like gazebos and some of the park spaces and the bathrooms and whatnot. And that was the impact of that race and the impact of the community saying, hey, we want to show the best of, because you don't want folks to roll up in the cut and your crib's not on point.
Right.
It's not going to have the best feeling.
They'll never come back.
Exactly. But when they come there and they see that, they're like, wow, this is amazing. The other thing too that they do lastly is they really get the community to show up, and they have a walk that they do on Saturday. It's free. Folks come together and they're walking. Local businesses and local engagement are there in tents and whatnot, selling things, educating people about the programs and activities that they're doing. So a shout out to Jackie and the team from Peace Runners out there. One day you'll definitely meet him. He's an amazing, amazing human being, and he's doing the good work there along with folks and getting ambassadors out there. So Chicago 13-1 is another one that's on the books. So this 2025, I'll start with Miami. So we'll see you there. We'll have a good time. Definitely going to do Chicago 13-1. If the calendar permits me to do Philly half in November, I'll do that. If not, maybe the Philadelphia Love Run, which I ended up doing this year, which is soon after the United Airlines New York City Half Marathon. So I usually do like 3 halves a year. And as far as road runner races, I'll try to sprinkle in a couple. I love running Harlem when I can, when like I have enough support in the team and I can take off and just hammer a quick 5K. Any of the 5K distances I could do because it's enough time for me to start the race, catch the finishers, and then get over. Because it takes us, we shut down our finish line in 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. Your fastest 5K is done in 17. Yeah. So I'm literally like, all right, whether I'm holding the finish line table, making sure that the team is good, they cross, they get that, we're good, all right, bet. I run over to the start line and then take off and run, come back, and then be there for award ceremony and whatnot. I'm not particularly fast, but I'm usually like the last person to start the race. But Mindful 5K, Harlem, I used to run Ross Heights all the time. Schedule's challenging for me to put that one. It's our first street race of the year, so that one is busy. But those are what I get out there and hammer.
Yeah, no, I love Harlem. It's always interesting, like that first mile uphill. second mile downhill.
Yep.
And then you,
And then you turn and you go up that hill again into City College.
Right. It's like
it's a mountain, man.
Right. You see, you see people just crashing away all the time. Okay, no, I love Miami, and I like Chicago. I like the full marathon. I didn't even know they had a half, so I'll probably do that because I do like running halves more than I like running fulls like this.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a commitment.
It's beyond a commitment. But when you talked about about them seeing you, right? Like, and that's the thing. Like when in the running, like even when I saw you, I was like, wow, okay, like because again we hear your voice all the time. It's like, yo, it's Ted, it's Ted, it's Ted. It's like, all right. But then it's like, wait a minute, Ted's a black guy.
Yeah,
that's dope. And then not to make it like race based, but just thinking about how many black men that I know that who have passed away because young, not exercising, not taking care of themselves. It seems to be very prevalent for us. But also one of the things that, from a large perspective, is like we kind of isolate ourselves as we get older, and we don't have that same community as like women. And so thinking, talk a little bit about how the running community kind of gets you together, keeps you like connected, because it definitely does that for me.
Oh yeah.
Especially this year running with No Name. I've always been a runner. I was by myself, go out there. I still run by myself, but the accountability of running with a group, but then also like just the connectivity of it is actually pretty dope.
Yeah. So shout out to Coffee and the crew that do No Name Define Run Club. They're doing a good work out there. I think there's a lot to unpack, and I'll try to not be too verbose. So there's so much value in kind of a community. To line it back to like the actual running piece, which I am similar to you, where I ran alone a lot, and it's a function of the job and constantly being around people. You need your own time.
Right.
Boundaries are really important sometimes, and folks don't really recognize that. And as black men, we carry a lot, and vulnerability is not something that is in our lexicon. We don't do that, and it's unfortunate that is something that is passed on like a baton. Grandfathers to fathers, fathers to sons, sons to their sons, where they don't show vulnerability, and show that level of caring. And the little bit that we do see happens very, very young, and at that point, then it stops. So like, hugging, holding, verbal, like, I love you, I'm proud of you, doing the good work, that kind of stuff. More of us need to say that to one another to create that. And that's, again, vulnerability, and it's also breaking down the walls of like trust and like, why is this person rolling up on me? What's going on? What do they want? Blah, 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 blah. So that's a whole thing there. We don't have to get too heavy on that piece. But as it relates to the running piece, the vulnerability part is key, because I'm not going to do this because it's hard, or I'm not going to do this because I don't know, is translating to I'm not going to do this because it's going to put me in a space that is uncomfortable for myself.
Right.
And when you're there with other people that are running different paces, and they look like you or don't like, oh, this person, I bet you, that people, oh, I bet you're really fast, Ted. I'm like, really fast to what? The kitchen? Like, what are you talking about? Like I'm here for a good time, not a fast time. So when you start to take that stuff away, then people are like, all right, well then I'm more likely to step in and open up, because other people are opening themselves up. And when you see run clubs and crews in particular, and the magic that they've been doing in the space and the development of it, I've watched the run club and run crew culture grow exponentially over the last 15 to 20 years. That's a lot, but I definitely have seen a tremendous blow up of those numbers in the last 5+ years coming out of COVID, because people were hungry for interaction, engagement, connection, unity, community. We were told we couldn't go to gyms, you couldn't be around a bunch of people, so on and so forth. So what we were able to do? Go outside. So now everybody says, I'm outside. Like, that's what it is. So folks went outside. Then they were like, listen, I need to stay in shape. So what do I need to do? Well, let me go run, let me jog, let me go to the parks, so on and so forth. And then it was like, well, I used to go to the gym and I used to see my boys, like, how about we coordinate and we'll all get together and we do this thing together outside? And then that's the development of that. So now run clubs, because they're so, in many cases, so hyper focused in a specific neighborhood, Harlem Run Club, we run uptown, Dykeman Run Club, Boogie Down Bronx Run Club, Bronx Soul, and I'm just naming a couple that are uptown, and then like there's the slew that are midtown, there's slew that are out in Queens, Brooklyn, like it goes on and on and on. Those are hyper communities right there. So you don't have to necessarily go really, really far. We're gonna meet at Marcus Garvey Park. We're gonna meet at Fortran Park. We're gonna meet at these locations that are within, I know that park, I walk by there all the time. Let me come over and meet those folks and get together and do that. So when you start to take all of those obstacles and walls down, like-minded individuals, similar socioeconomic, educational, or physical condition, the goal and the want to engage and connect, the goal and the want to get healthier and better. And I don't have to go far to do it. And to all the points you said, creates a level of accountability, creates a level of responsibility. People are looking forward to seeing you. People are expecting you to show up and checking in on you. Mm-hmm. How's that recovery coming along? How's your ankle? How's this? How's that? Or, how did that interview go? How's your family doing? How's your kid doing? I know they were going through some stuff. Like that kind of stuff, it really develops that community. So that has been really amazing to see, and I think we just need to continue to double down on that and show it and showcase it. So whether it's marathon day and 9 days when folks are out there, wear No Name, wear Boogie Down, wear Harlem, wear all of your club colors and representation there so you can show the community that exists. And be excited and support one another. So if you're not out there running, show up at the various cheer stations along the route and show love there and show your colors there and show your pride there to not just your crew, but to everybody, because then that opens that thing up there and people will walk away and say, yo, this is crazy. And the last thing I'll say too is like community travels. So when I go to the other majors and whatnot, whether it's teamwork and Joe Shane and the crew there, roll deep, whether they're running or cheering. Like they are all out there and they all show love, and I think that's a beautiful thing to see. And I think it's the evolution of our sport and our activity.
Yeah, no, I agree, 100%. We've definitely impacted a lot. I would say for those who have decided, Ted's convinced me to get out there and run. What are just a couple tips on how to get started for a new runner?
Yeah, I think, some of the things we hit on that we can kind of like really check that list off. First and foremost, and it's not to sound like that dude, but I'm gonna be that dude right now. It's like, if you have the means to go to a doctor, go get a checkup and see what's cooking. You know what I mean? Because you want to match yourself. We want to make sure you are in good enough condition to get out there and do the thing. It'd be no different than me, like, I'm gonna take my car for a cross-country drive. I'm like, well, you might want to get the oil change. You might want to check to see if the tires are good. You might want to just make sure you're tuned up to be able to take this journey. So equate it to that. That's the first thing that I would recommend if you, again, have the means to do that. I would be respectful of that. Get out there, a couple minutes. Like we said, I'm gonna get out and let me take that walk. I love what you said, which is like whether you're on the bus or the train or whatever it is, that one stop before, get off the stop before if you can and walk home, and like that's gonna make a difference on the front end or on the back end, especially the back end when like after a long day and you need to unwind and get some fresh air, especially now, like the air is so crisp and it feels so good. Get out there and do that. If you can, every single club and crew is out there in many of the neighborhoods. So on social, look it up. Your Roadrunners website has a list of like all the clubs and crews that are in the city, so you can do that. Engage with those folks. If you can, get somebody that can get out there and run and jog with you. If we all know at least one other person, somebody knows you as like, oh, I bet, you know what? Let me hit up Jason to get out there and go. Let me go for a run with him, and you'll be so like, yeah, bet, let's go. Like, let me take you on my favorite run, and maybe it starts with, let me take you on my favorite run, but we could do that walk. Let me show you my little, and then all of a sudden you're like, yo, listen, we just did 3 miles. So it's like 3.1 is a 5K, so you start breaking those things down to morsels there. So check up, check in, get out there, move your body a little bit at a time when you can, engage with people that are out there doing it already, and they can help you kind of take those next steps farther. I would definitely take time out to like learn things, the trick of the trade to make sure you're okay, hydrate appropriately, stretch appropriately, those types of things are key. And then look up any types of programs like Open Run that we have in New York Road Runners, which are free park runs. Get out there and do that, because then you can engage with the folks that are out there every week in your neighborhoods and your communities, and that continues to take away the, drop the walls and make people feel more comfortable, less vulnerable to get out there and do that, because they're like, oh, no one looks like me, and you walk out there and be like, everybody looks like me,
right.
like everybody, and they're like all cheering you on, and they're waiting, and they're clapping and doing all those beautiful things, and that helps inspire you. So those are the things that I would highly recommend folks to do, and build on it and set yourself up for a long-term goal. Like, I want to run this local 5K, I want to run this 10K, I want to build to run a half marathon, like whatever the distance is that you want to do that you may have always wanted to do. Why not set that as a goal that you want to do the next calendar year or that same calendar year, and lock that in. Some people kind of keep things to themselves and don't say anything. Other people say things because then other people keep them accountable. How's that training coming along for Philly? How's that training coming along for that 5K you're gonna do? Like, how you doing with that? And share your story on social and tell people what's going on, because people they only see the end product. They don't see the grind that goes in to making that work and getting up early in the morning and doing the damn thing. So I think that those are a couple of quick tips there that I would share for folks.
No, that's super helpful. Like, and I think that, to me, one of the most important things is sharing, right? So I share the good runs. Like, I share the ugly runs. I share, like, we had the speed run this past Tuesday, 1 mile, then a 5-minute tempo, 1200 5-minute tempo, 800 5-minute tempo, 400 5-minute tempo. It's 4.5 miles, right? Doing looping in the park, and it's not sexy. We had beginning of the year, we had a run. It was torrential. It was pouring, and we're doing hill repeats.
Yep.
And
rain or shine, we still grind.
Not sexy, but we get to Staten Island and we get to that hill.
Yeah.
And I'm watching everybody crashing out. I'm like, I done did this hill 500 times. and you make it, right? You do it. And so, showing, hey, like, look at the times. Like, my average time might be 13:30, whatever. Doesn't matter. But my goal this year was, let me complete the 5 boroughs. So I never got to rush Staten Island again.
Yeah.
Look, I got my 5 boroughs.
That's exactly what you said when I saw you in Staten Island. You were like, I'll never want to run this race again.
But that was the goal for me. Like, let me get this. All right, I'm done. But now that can inspire somebody else to say, okay, like, he got those 5 medals this year. What can I do? And I think that's important, because if we see people, like us. Like, I could do that. Because I was in Arizona. I saw my friends getting medals and stuff. I was like, I'm a professional athlete. I can do this.
Yeah.
I can run this, to run the first Brooklyn half.
Yeah.
And when we got to so I trained down in Arizona. It's all flat.
Oh yeah.
Right. So when we got here, and I got to Prospect Park.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, not even Prospect Park, because when you start on Washington, go down to Eastern, make that turn on Flatbush, you do the out and back on Flatbush, and then you enter into the park. That's when it's like, it creeps up on you folks, because people don't realize, like, yo, Prospect Park is hilly on the low.
Yeah. But that was okay. But then when we got into the park and we hit that hill, and I was like, man, this is crazy. And I couldn't run it. I was like, I had to walk it, And so I was just like, look, I know I could do this. Next time I'm running this hill.
Yep.
And so, again, those little, making those goals very small, but very, accessible, but also attainable. It helps.
All consumable goals that you can, like, one at a time, little bit at a time. And the big thing too is, like, I don't want to say I've officially got to a point that I don't really care about time. I want to feel good when I'm finished, which is always the biggest thing. So that's why that barometer of fitness is key, and being able to pick up and just run these halves. I do have a long-term goal. You're in the first of. I think I'd run another marathon again. Okay. There will be some significant lifestyle changes that need to come into play. So to apply that, which is rule number 1 in running a marathon,
life will change.
It will for sure. But I would do it. I'm still fit. I'm still healthy. I'm still strong, and I still love this sport and activity. So why not?
Appreciate you. Great conversation.
Yes, without a doubt. This was great. And I know this is a long time coming.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. What's the rest of the year looking like to close out 24, and what's the goal for 25?
All right, so I got the dash next week,
Mhm.
so I got to actually go pick up my bib when I leave here, and then I have Miami to start the year.
Okay.
And I got the Uptown 5K.
Uh-huh.
I like running that race too. I'm running around for a Tryon,
Nice.
and so I'm trying to get into Boston. Trying to get into it with just like a cause.
Yeah.
I applied for Berlin,
Mhm.
so if I can get to Berlin. So if I can get to Boston, Berlin, then
You got your spring and you got your fall.
right. And so for me, it's like continue to do United half.
Mhm.
Just did the entry for that. Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
and then like the Queens, the Bronx, no Staten Island. So because again, those are good distances. Right? The halves, the tens,
absolutely, and they're home.
And
like
right.
that's the best thing too. Because like, I mean, I would not ever be able to run those races just because of my schedule and the role that I have and whatnot, and handling the logistics and operations and all that jazz. And I ran Brooklyn a couple of times during my interim years of not being back at the shop, and I ran the UANYC, New York City half back then. I ran that one as well, and at least I know what that experience is. But I don't have to go to Philly. I don't have to go to Miami. I don't have to go to Chicago. I don't have to all these other places that I go to, and I love traveling to run this. Like you just hop on the subway. That's for a quality race experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that's that. I never thought about it that way until you stated that. Like, I literally am like, my next half is Miami, and then the next one after that one might be someplace in Philly and whatnot. But to be able to sit there and say, yeah, Miami for sure, that's the thing to do. But then you're like, yeah, I got New York City half, and I got Brooklyn half, and I got that's legit.
Yeah, because it keeps me running. It keeps me going throughout the year,
Mm-hmm.
right? It did I think in the past, I would stop, it'd be like November, and all right, I'm just gonna chill out until March, and then say, okay, let me get ready for the Brooklyn half. But I said, adding Miami now, my goal for Miami is to beat my time. I want to get down to 230, 240.
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome.
Nice.
Right? And so, it also for me is a level of okay, how do I turn it up?
Yeah.
How do I take the base, the foundation that I've established this summer,
Mm-hmm.
training for a marathon that I'm not running.
Right.
Like training with everyone who they went to Berlin and they went to Berlin or Chicago and then down New York.
Yeah.
They're good. I'm just out there running with them like I'm
Which
crazy.
is amazing.
So now, how do I get there next year, right?
Yeah.
How do I continue this and build on it so that next year, I can get to Boston and hopefully get that and do that, and then get to Berlin and knock that out, and then now I've got 4 stars.
Yeah.
Right, and then we got the last 2.
Yeah.
And then it's Tokyo, which is so Tokyo is always the one that's always in the back of my mind. You got that time.
The 6 hour cutoff. Right.
Well, you got to beat the 5K and the 10K first.
Right.
Before 6 hours, I'll get that.
Right.
But
those cutoffs, the early cutoffs,
it's you got to run faster than you have to start, because you're starting. Your gun starts at the time of the first.
Yep.
Right. So if I'm in the back with everybody else, I've already lost 40 minutes to get there. So that's always been that's in the back of my mind of how do I get to the point where I know I can get that 5K, 10K out the way, and not have to worry about them tapping me on the shoulder excuse me, sir.
Yeah. They'd be like this to you.
Come on. I didn't see anybody. I was just running. I didn't hear.
Yeah, I just stepped over you. I just kept it moving. Yeah, Tokyo is incredible. That market, it's a different world, man. I've gone 2 years in a row, and I've been blessed to be able to go out there and see that race firsthand, and then to see the volume of people. Their field size has stayed consistent, but the percentage of international athletes has increased, and they decreased the local. So they really want to get folks out there, and that's definitely in line with what happened in COVID, because the country was shut down for a minute.
Yeah.
So Tokyo's is a different world, and the logistics of the course is fascinating too. And I want to be mindful of time, but the course is it's basically 3 out and backs.
Okay. On
there, so that and it's designed that way because Tokyo, the city of Tokyo is 80 million people.
Mm-hmm.
It dwarfs us field size wise as far as a city. New York is massive, but it is a huge a huge city in itself, so you have to be able to clear the course and get the city moving again in that place. But yeah, man, listen, you know the steps that are there, and it sounds like you have a good, you're closing out this year well, and you have a good plan for next year, and we'll see each other on the roads for sure. I'll see you at the Washington Heights race, and I'll see you at the other majors. God willing, for Boston and Berlin. Keep it doing.
You too, man.
Excellent, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
This is great.